What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? I hope that everyone is doing well. Let me get everything pulled up on my screen. My apologies. I'm definitely running a little late tonight, but for all the good reasons, you guys. It has definitely been an extremely busy day for me in a good way. You all, I'm not going to stay on here too long. I'm not going to keep you all here all night. You know, my goal is to come to you guys twice a week, primarily on Sundays and Wednesdays. Let me make sure I got everything up. All right, cut the volume down on this side. If you guys are seeing, I see people are coming into the room. Say what's up, Tim. If you're there, say what's up, Tim. Let me know where you're watching from, whether it's YouTube or Facebook. Man, I look so forward to doing these videos. It's kind of hot. Let me get this jacket off. I'm at that age now, y'all, where I'm waking up early, I'm going to bed late, and I'm always cold. I used to make fun of my parents about that so much. Like, man, you old. My mom used to always be cold, and she would go to bed late and wake up super early. My grandfather, I always joke with him about it because my grandfather wakes up at, man, like 4 o'clock every morning. He's always done this, and he stays up to midnight. So I have officially turned the corner, and I am at that age where I'm always cold. So I always have a jacket on. But yo, shout out to everyone who's watching. Say what's up. Let me know you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. You watch from Dallas. You watch from out of town. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're watching this on replay, say what's up. Let me know what's good. We're going to have a good show today. A real, not a quick show, but a show that, I'm not going to waste too much time and, tarry too long, as they would say at the churches. They say we're not going to tarry. But listen, the topic today is really simple. It's called assembly required. Assembly required. And what that means, you all, is that whenever there's time for you to get from where you are to where you want to be, there's some work that you're going to need to put into it in order to accomplish those goals. And a lot of times, whenever I mentor people or whenever I talk to people about, helping them achieve their goals, they watch people from a distance, primarily on social media. And the people on social media make it look really easy. They make whatever they're doing look super easy. So people think that all they got to do, let's say, for instance, in selling real estate, is go out and get my real estate license. And then I'm going to get my first client. And I'm going to show them one house. And then I'm going to sell them a house. And I'm going to make $6,000. And I'm going to repeat. And that is not realistic whatsoever. In fact, it is the worst thing that you could ever think. It's the worst notion that you can ever think, that going into any situation is easy and that there's no assembly required. So listen, we're going to hear a brief word from our sponsor, and then we're going to get this show started, you all.
Nonprofit that is making moves. Real Youth Mentoring is a nonprofit organization that provides support to young men across the United States, teaching them to be better scholars, better leaders, and productive members of their community. Through service, scholarship, and engagement, we address the systemic issues that often plague low-income communities while providing solutions rooted in economics and accountability. Visit our website, www.realyouthmentoring.org, to learn how you can join and learn ways that you can provide support. The change we need is here, and the change we need is now. Become a member and a supporter today.
All right. As always, we're saying what's good to Real Youth Mentoring. You guys, Real Youth Mentoring is my purpose. I'm not going to lie. Sitting at my home, man, 6 or 7 years ago, watching things unfold during the Trayvon Martin verdict and watching things unfold during the Mike Brown situation, I said to myself, I've got to do something, and I can't depend on anyone else to do it for me. And so I set out to create a mentoring program that would change lives. And you guys, we're deep in the game officially for Real Youth Mentoring. We're about to hit 5 years in the game this year. But as a mentor, I've been doing mentoring for since I was 19 years old. But so you guys, I really want to thank you all who support Real Youth Mentoring. Visit www.realyouthmentoring.org. Become a donor. Sign up your kid. Ages 10 to 18 is the age groups. We teach some dope lessons. We teach about entrepreneurship, leadership. We have a principle called the manhood principle, and we also have core values that we live by. We'd love to teach your son or nephew or the young man in your life who could benefit from this. Also, we look to transition over to that 18 to 25 gap, because so many young Black men are falling by the wayside in the 18 to 25 gap. You hear clinking. That's my dog, Pepper, who always, Pepper, stop. Oh, I'm doing something. Whenever she wants more food, she comes to her bowl and just clinks it around. So, never fails that she'll start doing it while I'm on live. Also, you guys definitely check out www.realdopetm.com. I have the podcast there. I have the book there. 100% of the proceeds go to the book. Go to the mentoring program. So you guys, if you're there, what's up, Auntie? Appreciate you for joining. If you guys are here, tell me where you're watching from. Let me know if you're, what city you're at, what state you're in. And if you're watching on replay, just type in replay and tell me where you're watching from. For anyone who wants to know, I did start my notary class this week. I felt so good in the grand scheme of everything. I was able to go through and watch a lesson. So I feel very, very good about that. And my goal is to get that thing wrapped up before spring break, which is next Monday. You know, when my son goes on spring break. So that's my goal, is to get that thing wrapped up. But listen, you all, we're going to get down to the busy of the nest. We're not going to waste no time tonight. We're going to talk about the importance of understanding that in everything that you do, there is some assembly required. Now, what do I mean when I say assembly required? I often tell a story, you guys, of how, being that I'm in real estate, I feel like that I make real estate look easy. If y'all look into my eyes have bags. They're glossed over. They're red. I haven't got any sleep since I announced that I was, becoming an independent broker again, working my own business. I mean, but it seems like since I made that announcement, I've been super busy. I wrote a contract literally the next day, got my client under contract, and then that same client sent me someone, and we actually visited them today, and they're looking at buying and selling a piece of property. So, or such as selling and then buying another piece of property. We have another client that's in the process of selling and buying a piece of property. So the reason I was a few minutes late to this is because I was actually writing the contract and making sure I had everything to them before I signed. But a lot of people don't understand that whenever they think about real estate, a lot of people come into the game and say, man, I love that real estate thing you're doing, and I always kind of cringe and call it a thing, because people like myself make it look easy, but there's so much work. There's so much assembly required. And whether you're getting your notary's license, whether you're getting into real estate, whether you're becoming a loan officer, a lot of people are getting into the appraisal business, the inspection business. A lot of people are getting into the underwriting business, especially for, loans. There are so many companies right now. Just Google any major bank and type, underwriting position, and you'll see so many job postings where they're paying six figures a year starting off. Some of them are giving you $10,000 bonuses. Do your own research. Don't ask me where. I just know people have told me about this. I know people who've gotten those jobs. But, a lot of times we feel like that whenever we see people experiencing success, that success is mandatory, that it's a prerequisite for whatever that career field is. And I went live into another group that I'm a part of today, and I explained to them how it's so important to find your niche and find out what it is that you want to do and really stick to it, because it takes time to develop any traction in whatever you're doing. A lot of people do not realize it, that a lot of stuff just takes a lot of time. Let me see, hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. All right. And so because people don't realize that, they have false expectations, and then they get into whatever it is, and then they feel like they're either not good at it or it's not worth their time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I was about to make an analogy, but it kind of slipped my mind. So hopefully it'll come back to me. But, when I first got into real estate, I didn't make any money at all the first couple of years. I think I sold maybe one house the first year, and that was after or when I was between jobs, right? So, I told myself, well, dang, this unemployment ain't kicked in and I'm about to get kicked out. So I need to sell a house. And I ended up hustling and bustling and getting a house on the contract. It's amazing what happens when you're under duress and you need that money. But then once I got another job and got comfortable, I found myself not selling any real estate because I expected it to come to me very easily and very naturally. And while I was a natural at having a conversation about real estate, I was a natural about making people feeling comfortable about purchasing real estate. I wasn't a natural at the actual art of selling real estate. There was some assembly that is required. That means that I had to go out there and not only educate myself through the books, because no real estate school actually teaches you how to sell real estate. Only experience can teach you how to sell real estate. But I had to get in front of people and sharpen my skills and sharpen my toolbox so that people would feel comfortable buying real estate through me. And what I always explain to people whenever they call me and they say, Tim, I want to get into real estate. I'm typically the go-to guy within my circle, and in many parts of Dallas, when people get ready to buy real estate, they'll refer people to me and say, "Hey, call Tim and talk to him about it." And it got to the point to where I literally created a video where when people call me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about going and getting real estate," I just send them the video link because I just got tired of having the same conversation because it's a numbers game. A lot of people see the success of real estate, but then they don't see the heartache of real estate. So people call me and say, "Tim, what do I need to do to be successful at real estate?" And I explained to him, one, you need to lower your expectations. I need to put that on here. Let me see, lower your expectations, okay? And people always look at me side-eyed when I say that because we have been taught that our expectations should never be lowered, that we should get the gold standard and everything. But I tell people all the time, lower your expectations because what you think it is, whether it's real estate, whether it's notary, whether it's a new business venture, it typically ain't that. Okay. Unless you've been working side by side with someone in that industry and you can seamlessly flow into their pipeline where you're getting their leads and where you're getting access to their clientele, it ain't that. When my wife got her real estate license, she actually worked as my assistant prior to getting her real estate license. So she watched me write contracts. She didn't write contracts for me, but she watched me. I would allow her to kind of type and input the data for me, and I would dictate what to put there, and she would know what went into what field. She would listen to me negotiating, with other seller agents or even buyers agents, and she would listen to those things that you need to say to, one, make your deal stick or stand out, but two, if you're on the selling side, those things that you would need to say to ensure that the buyer's agent understood where your seller stood and what would not be acceptable. And if you just join me, say what's up, let me know where you're at, tell me where you watching here from. So once she finally got her license, she was ready to roll, and she naturally had access to my pipeline and to my clientele. And the same thing happened to many of my buyers agents and even sellers agents who joined my team. They kind of came into a plug and play system, and many of my agents admitted that even after they branched out and went to a different company or tried to go out on their own, they realized that it wasn't as easy as I made it look because they had really, really high expectations of how things would work. And then it didn't work that way. And I remember the thought that I was going to say, I'll never forget when I first got into real estate, I worked for one big company for about a year. And then another big company recruited me. And, I moved to an office literally like 2 blocks down. And there was a guy in my office. I'm not going to say his name because I'm sure one day he's going to stumble upon these videos, and I'm not going to insult him in any kind of way, but I just don't want to, say his name. And so we had this thing in our office called phone time. Okay. So instead of them hiring a secretary or an administrative assistant to answer the phones, we as agents would sign up on the phone time list. Okay. And that said, hey, you can come into the office from, I think it was between 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock p.m. You could pick a slot anywhere from 1 to 2 hours and you could answer the phones. Okay. I think I may have did phone time twice. It wasn't really my thing because my line of work was call center work prior to, so I wasn't trying to be on nobody's phone. But I'll never forget this agent. Let's just call him John. John came in and he had just gotten his license, and we worked in an office in Frisco, and John was doing phone time. And John got this phone call, literally his first time doing phone time, his first week being a real estate agent. The call that he got was for $1 million listing. Okay. Now, this was back when the market was good, y'all. And we were in Frisco. So he got $1 million listing. I'll never forget during the office meeting, they would always promote, hey guys, get on phone time. Hey guys, get on phone time. And so John got on phone time and he got $1 million listing. Okay. Now that's at 3%, commission, that's about $30,000. And then I think at the time our split was maybe a 65-35 split. So that was 19.5. He made 19.5 on his very first deal. And I just can't forget, remembering that, man, what luck. I was always telling myself, if I could just make about $20,000 or $30,000 and put it to the side, I can leave my job and do this real estate thing, full time. And I'll never forget, they would tell us this for about a month until that deal closed. They were like, yeah, let's talk about John's deal. How are you working on that deal? Yeah, we just hit the appraisal phase. I've been working phone time ever since. And for about 6 months, that was really the only deal that John got. You know, he thought that that was real estate. You get on phone time, you get $1 million deal, you close the deal, you make 19.5, and then you repeat. Okay. And John learned really quick that that wasn't the game. And I remember I would come into the office. I had a full-time job, but then I would come in at night. Sometimes I would come in on my lunch break. And shout out to everybody that's joined. Say what's up if you're joining. Let me know where you're from. He would always sign up for all this phone time, to the point where every time I came in the office, he was at the front. And for like the first week or two, you know, all the phone time slots got filled up. But after, you know, about a couple of weeks went by and stuff started dying down, you didn't really see a lot of people signing up for multiple slots, but he would. And eventually he got burnt out because he thought, you know, well, damn, you know, I signed up for phone time. I hit $1 million deal. I made 19.5 on it, but I'm not really getting that look. Now he started getting those rentals, you know, and you don't get paid on a rental like you get paid on $1 million deal. The most I've ever made on a rental was maybe, on average, I would say I would make about $400 or $500. Sometimes $100. You know, some rentals only pay you $100. On the high end rentals, depending on which ones I did, I would make a decent amount, but they were few and far between. But he was getting a lot of those $300, $400 rentals that, you know, if you think about selling a house, you know, you think about selling a house, you have to think about the time that goes into it. Picking somebody up. This was back in the good old days of real estate when people would actually ride with us in our car, right? No one has rode in my car in over a decade, but he would go and pick them up and take them around. And this is before Google Maps, so he was using, you know, what was that, MapQuest, you know, printing out a bunch of stuff and putting so much time and effort into it. And he learned really quick that that wasn't the game. And he had to quickly lower his expectations, but so much so to where eventually he ended up leaving the office and started bouncing around in different offices because in his mind, he just wanted to get on some good phone time or get into a system where somebody could give him a lead. He never saw the grind that goes into it. So I tell people, whenever you're looking to assemble your exit strategy, I want you to lower your expectations, but you definitely want to raise up your work ethic. Okay. So let's talk about the next point. You know, after you lower your expectations and realize that maybe the way I feel about this particular career field isn't really what I should be expecting, what I really want you to do is put into your mind that you're more than likely are going to go about 6 months without even seeing success, experiencing success, or making any money. I always tell the new agents when they say, you know, what makes the best real estate agent? And I say, an agent who ain't chasing no check. And like, what do you mean? I said, most agents come into the game chasing a check. They're chasing commission. So either they left their job or they've been fired or they're under financial duress to where they're like, you know, I had one agent one time. I'm not going to say her name either. I don't like to badmouth people, you guys. I like to use these experiences as teachable moments. But I had an agent who worked for me about 2 or 3 years ago. And I mean, she just was always under duress. Tim, I'm not getting no sales and I need some help and I got rent due and I got to pay for my life, my medical insurance and my life insurance. And, you know, I want to get married and and blah, 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 blah. Right. And it was always something. I just remember my wife used to just be like, you know, can she just shut up sometimes, right? Because she came into the game needing that money, right? And what I used to explain to her is that it takes time. You know, we all have those problems. We all have to take care of our insurance. We all have to take care of our bills. I always tell people you need to plan ahead. There's some assembly required. You need to plan ahead for those dark days. You need to plan ahead for those times where you're not going to make any money for a couple of months, or that money's not going to sustain you like that job money sustains you. Case in point, we had a transaction recently where the transaction, it was a decent little transaction. My client was in the process of selling their house and they're in the process of buying another house. This was, you know, prior to the snowstorms. And we got to the day of closing and the buyer backed out. Nothing within our control. And so the buyer backed out and, you know, it was a decent commission, you guys. But not only did they back out, it caused a domino effect, which means that we couldn't sell their house. And you guys, I don't want to, you know, make it seem like I got all this money in the world. But from a broker's standpoint, remember, I was working for a company at the time that all this happened, before I went independent. From a broker standpoint, on the buying side, that would have been like a $7,500 transaction. I'm talking about not taking about on the selling side, that would have been a $7,500 transaction, and on the buying side, that would have been about a $8,000 transaction. That's like a $15,000 swing. Okay. And that's just from a broker standpoint. That's not after I had to pay all my fees and factor in the marketing and stuff like that. But let's just say from my standpoint, that would have been maybe about 12 grand. Okay. The deal fell apart. Now imagine if I needed that money. Now let's not get it twisted. I can't just be giving away that kind of money in my career field. But I wasn't in a situation where my lights were about to get cut off. Shout out to everybody who's joining, say what's up and where you're joining from. I wasn't in a situation where that check was going to be my mortgage payment, or that check was going to be my car note, or that check was going to essentially be everything for me. In many cases, a lot of agents who come into the game, they're depending on that check. And that may be the case with you. Maybe not with real estate, but you're depending on this additional income so much so that you're not factoring in that what if situation. Does that make sense? If it makes sense to me, say it makes sense, okay? So I always tell people the best agents are the ones who don't need the money right now, because they're not going to be under duress. That's my favorite term, under duress, meaning, oh my God, I got to make a move right now. What's going on? And they're not going to make decisions based on that duress. And then they're not going to be in a situation where they're negotiating for you based on their duress. I've seen this so many times where we just throw crap against the wall and see if it's going to stick on some of these offers. And the agents are new agents who don't have a clue what they're doing, and they just need the money. And there's things there's tough conversations that they need to have with their sellers after we get under contract, and they don't know how to have that conversation. And so they completely just shut down. And then we have to kind of take over the transaction and kind of coach and hold their hand through, because in their mind, I just don't want this deal to fall apart, right? That could be detrimental to a person's economy if they have a $12,000 swing. That's not the average on my deals. Again, that's buying and selling, average deal, we'll talk about that another time, right? So you want to be able to plan for a couple of months, have your reserves when you go into whatever you're doing, so that in the event that you need to rely on your reserves, you can. But back to the assembly required, it's going to take you being in a position to understand that it's going to take some work, and many people don't understand that. Assembly could be several things, all right? I've already mentioned that it can be education, right? So education is getting out there into the field, taking courses. For me, I had to literally relearn real estate outside of what I was taught in school. I had to start to mimic other fields. And let me share a nugget with you guys. If you all don't get anything that I'm saying today, I want you to take this away. When I started to really make waves in the real estate industry, I started making waves because I completely modeled my real estate business like a different industry. For example, I had an attorney who worked in my office, and I would watch how attorneys moved. They had just a different way. Like, you guys have all seen those little cheesy commercials, that come on during daytime television where there's an attorney standing on top of a 18-wheeler, and he's, I'm hammer. That's what we have here in Dallas or Texas, right? Or, call me, I'm the strong guy, right? And they're the most cheesiest stuff you see, but it works, right? So I stopped thinking, approaching my business like the average real estate agent, and I started looking at other industries and learning customer service and learning marketing through other industries, because it made me stand out. Every realtor comes into the game doing the exact same thing. If you're getting into notary, every notary comes into the game doing the same thing. Every insurance agent comes in the game doing the same thing. If you have multi-level marketing, you're selling health and wellness products. Every single one of those people come into the game doing the same thing. You have to differentiate yourself by learning a new skill and learning a new approach, because what happens is typically that industry benefits from a refreshed approach, but there's some assembly required. It's going to cause you to have to sit down and pay attention to what someone else is doing and apply those different nuances to the way that you've been trained or taught, and you'll see differences, all right? But you have to put yourself in a situation to where you are learning the education. Also, once you learn You guys, you already know what I'm about to say. Some of you all probably can type it in the comments right now, right? Education is nothing without application. If you're not applying what you're learning, there's a term that a friend of mine, I don't know where he got this from, but he calls it intellectual masturbation. Essentially, where a person has all the information in the world, but they're not doing anything but debating people online with it, right? You see it a lot when, it comes to issues that's prevalent for Black people. A lot of times I get on Facebook and people just want to argue with me and talk to me about stuff that really has nothing to do with the solution. And they want to, bounce these theories off. And I'm just like, I'm good. I don't have time for that. Like, what do we need to actually do? And what are you doing? And many times the people who have the most intellectual responses or the longest theories have never, ever done any of that stuff. They've never even tried that stuff. They're just waiting on someone else to maybe try and see how it works before they dip their toe in the water. You see, true leadership and true assembly requires you to actually dive in, okay? And until you dive in, then you're just a good talker. You're just a person that sounds good. Don't be that person. Don't be the person who is gonna make things look a certain way and sound a certain way, but they don't actually materialize to those things. Auntie says application rules the nation. Somebody said conversation rule the nation. Now application rule the nation. I can talk that good shit to you all day long, but if you show up and you see that that's just talk, then eventually that's gonna fizzle off. That feeling after that intellectual masturbation is gonna wear off, and then reality is gonna hit, and you're like, man, this dude is full of it. And right now, we don't need that. We need people that are about that life. We need people who are actually out there doing what they need to do. Hence why I do these videos, to give you tools to be armed with, okay? Now, after you do the application, here's where a lot of people make a mistake, all right? So I want you all to maybe write this down. If you're watching on replay, I want you to mark, somewhere, like if you say, all right, this is 10-minute mark or 27-minute mark, like go back and watch this, okay? I want you all to start reviewing the data. Where I messed up a lot in my business is I freestyled a lot, right? I'm from the South. There was a huge era back in the South, between 1998 and about 2005. I like to call it the rap city, in the basement, era where, freestyle Fridays. Like, I used to love the freestyle. You couldn't tell me I couldn't freestyle. I was horrible at it, but you couldn't tell me I couldn't freestyle, right? And so in my business, I began to apply that same approach where I would have things that worked, I would have things that didn't work, but instead of focusing on the things that worked and doubling down on that, I would still just randomly do stuff. I didn't keep a note system. One thing I learned working in the call centers, if anybody's ever worked in a call center, is what's the number one thing they make you do when you're taking a call? They make you document that call so that in the event that somebody calls back and gets another representative, we can go in there and look in the notes. And when I worked in call centers and even trained as a call center trainer and call center manager, I always taught people how to take good notes, because it's important for the people that come after you to know exactly what took place. Everyone here has called, a call center at some point in the game and felt like, damn, I got to explain myself over, right? But what you need to do in your own life is take and apply that same concept and review the data. Look at what works, look at what doesn't work, scrap what doesn't work, and double down on what does. It's an old saying, eat the meat and throw away the bones. And I struggle with that. I struggle with reviewing data. I literally had a consultation today with someone who's helping me improve my businesses in some major ways. And they showed me some tools to apply to my various websites so that I could start reviewing the data. Even when we run Facebook ads, I always go back and look at that data and say, okay, who clicked and opened up on my ads? If I see that 72% of women between the ages of 25 and 45 opened up my my ad, the next ad I run is going to focus on, I'm going to literally tailor that ad to hit women between the ages of 25 and 45. Does that make sense? Because statistically, what I do, it's typically women who engage what I do more, because a lot of them are the ones that's, making the decisions as it relates to what type of house they want. And either they're single or the husband's like, you just find it, as long as it's got a backyard and a garage, I'm good, right? So I had to start tailoring my approach to the data. And too often we apply our own flawed logic. In fact, we apply our own flawed logic going into something. I was talking to someone. I did a talk today, and I'm getting ready to wrap this up. If you guys are in here, say what's up. Let me know where you're watching from. I did a talk today, and I'm a part of this group. And what I noticed is within the group, a lot of the people have multiple hustles, for lack of better words. So, maybe they're trying to sell real estate, and they do taxes, and they do hair, and they sell nutritional products. And what I explained to them is that you need to find one thing that you're really good at, and you need to focus on that thing. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's so hard, because even I, coming into real estate, I believe that, well, if I have a real estate license and I have a mortgage license, this is during the time when you could have both here in Texas, and one didn't have to be inactive. And then if I have an insurance license, and then I do taxes, and then I also have an affiliate where I sell, direct TV or cable, I could literally sell one person a house and handle every aspect of that house. That is the most unrealistic thing that I expected, right? And as a result, I found myself going from, as my grandpa say, you have a jack of all trade. If you're a jack of all trade, you're a master of none. Tyler Examiner says, this makes so much sense. Auntie, what's good from Charlotte, North Carolina? I love Charlotte. Man, I got so many Charlotte stories. CIAA. I'm going to leave it at that. Detroit, Michigan in the house. What's good? I see Dallas, Texas is in the house. What's good? So I went in thinking that because I had all these different tools in my toolbox, that people would naturally come to me to buy the house, or get the loan, buy the house, get the insurance. Once they got the insurance, I would sell them an alarm system and sell them some TV service. And then at the beginning of the year, I do their taxes. Ain't nobody gonna go to one person for all that. That's unrealistic. So what I had to learn very quickly is that I need to figure out what I'm really good at. And I was really good at real estate. Somebody watching this has 7 or 8 side hustles. Okay? You a hustle man. Whatever you want, I got it. Whatever you need, I'll get it. So get it while the getting is good. Boy, I did it so hard, I knocked my damn headphones off, right? Y'all, I'm a Martin fan, right? What's happening, Chief, right? So some of y'all are hustle man, right? And you got so many side hustles that no one's going to ever take you seriously, and you'll never be able to break out of the shadow of being the person who's doing too much, okay? So review the data, and find out what is working for you and what is not working for you, okay? Again, assembly is required, right? Sometimes I always laugh because when I put together stuff, when I used to put together stuff, it would always be extra stuff left over. Like, man, how come I got these screws right here, right? And sometimes you're going to have things that are left over that are extras. And then you're going to have sometimes where there's things left over that's required. And you don't want to put together a janky system that's shaky, that can be wavered. Think about the 3 little pigs. One of them built a house of straw. Big Bad Wolf came through and blew it down. The other one built a house of wood. He came through and blew it down. The other one built a house of brick. The rest, huff and puff. Auntie said, what's up, Chief? Right? Huff and puff. And then he couldn't get into it, right? But if you build a solid system, no one, and I mean no one, can tear that system apart. But another thing about a solid system, people buy systems. Think about how many times you bought a couch or you bought a desk and then you don't need it anymore. You put it on a website like OfferUp or 5 Mile or even Facebook Marketplace. And there's somebody out there who will come and buy that. I bought so much stuff off of those websites. And even though I get it at a discount, when you think about it from a business perspective, there are people and companies and brokers that actually, their whole job is to go out and buy systems. And if you're good at what you do, your competition will buy you out. Think about Mark Cuban. I'm here in Dallas, so I'll use Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban owned, I don't know if it was an IT or some type of technology company that he sold for a couple $2 billion, right? Like, that's what venture capitalists do. People go out there and they create systems, and the purpose is not to work it forever. The purpose is to get it to where they can sell it. One of my first real estate brokers built a very, very, very successful Century 21 office here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And then he sold it later on to a bigger Century 21 office. And he retired after that, okay? On top of that, having multiple properties that he lived off of. But he sold his system. I learned this when I got into real estate, that you can sell your database. How many times, I remember about 10 years ago, I was going to this doctor in Richardson, Texas, and he was such a good doctor. I found this doctor when I first got back from the military. I mean, he was such a good doctor. And then one day I went to go see him, just for a routine checkup. And he was like, hey, by the way, just want to let you know, man, I'm moving to California. He said, but, I have a referral for you. In fact, I'm selling my business here in Texas to another, the other doctor in the office, right? And he literally sold his practice, which his practice wasn't a building. His practice was a database, you all. So start assembling and reviewing that data. Start continuing to sharpen that data and making the tweaks where you need to, and make that data into a machine that you can one day sell and pass down. When people say, I'm willing my business to my kids, or I'm passing my business down, they're not passing a physical business. They're passing down a database. They're passing down what works. A friend of mine, we just saw him today, and he's into acquisitions and things of that nature, and he's in the process of acquiring another business. You guys ever seen like an insurance commercial where they say, we've been serving our people for 150 years? Well, you just start here. You just heard of this insurance company. Like, I haven't even heard of you in the last 10 years. That's because over the years, this small company has started to acquire smaller companies to form bigger companies. And now they can say we've been serving for 150 years because they may have acquired a business that's been around for that long. Does that make sense? So start to review the data. All right. Now, guys, I'm about to wrap it up. I've talked to you guys about making sure you lower your expectations. Matt, well, let's start. I talked to you guys about making sure that you have anything worth having requires a little work. We talked about plan for 6 months with no success, success meaning money. We talked about lowering your expectation. We talked about getting the education needed to apply. Naturally, we talk about apply. We talk about reviewing the data. Last things last is what I want you to do. Assembly required. Make sure, let me write this down. All right. Make sure you have the right tools. You all, if you have the wrong tools, you're going to find yourself struggling to the point to where you like, F this. Like, I just don't have time for this anymore. I can't tell you all how many times I've needed to tighten something up over here, or look, just fix something or put something together, and I just don't have the right tools. And in the process, I strip a screw. You know how when you get the wrong screwdriver and you turn it too much, and then you strip where you turn it. And so now you have to go get a whole nother screw. Well, if this is something that came out of a box that I'm assembling, I'm kind of stuck. I got to get in my car, take it up to a hardware store, try to match it as much as I can. If the screw is not long enough, I got to get them to cut it. There's so much that goes into it when all I had to do was have the right tools. Tim, what are the right tools? I'm glad you asked. Databases, databases, databases. Find you a good database to document everything that you're doing, okay? Find you a place where you can go to where it's literally one place to where you can manage and navigate your businesses, okay? You need to also have the right tools in having the right people. The right people can make or break your business. When I became an independent broker, one of the first hires I made was a good friend of mine that I had known from junior high. Literally never had any issues with him ever. He always wrote good contracts. He always asked for help. He never complained about the money because I compensated him well. He never wasted my time. We meshed so well. In fact, when I announced that I had, went off on my own as a broker, he was literally the first person to call me, physically pick up the phone and say, hey man, you hiring? And even though I have no desire whatsoever to manage people at all, the answer for him was yes. Because I know, one, he's going to be a good tool. He's going to be a good asset to my company. He's not going to bring a liability to my company. He's not going to need a lot of supervision. And it's just my dude. I know he's going to look out for me. On the flip side, I've hired people that, man, they don't know their damn, name from a fortune cookie. Like everything that they do, they second guess themselves. I got to hold their hand. I'm spending time doing my job as the broker and then doing their job as the agent. And it just becomes a nuisance. It just becomes a situation where I'm like, dang, this is getting old, right? That's a tool. Personnel is a tool. The right people are going to further your business. Shout out to people that's joining in on YouTube. Shout out, tell me where you're from. Say what's up to me, right? But what else is a tool, you guys? We talked about your database. Let's talk about those systems, right? If I've already said this, having a system in place, not necessarily a physical system that you log into, but having a system in place that you are going to follow every single day, like clockwork. Think about how many times, let's say you watch your favorite television show. If I'm watching a sports event, which I haven't watched any TV recently, but if I'm watching a sports event or me, and I'm sitting and I'm watching TV with my son or my wife, during that hour of whatever we're watching, we're going to see the same commercials over and over and over. And many times what we're not catching is that those big companies understand that it's not always about putting something new in front of somebody. It's about putting something repetitive in front of somebody. And if you watch that, I don't have a shame saying this. I'm not one of those dudes that's looking for endorsements. Right now, I'm not. Once I start making a whole lot of money, then I ain't saying nobody's name, right? But when I there was a one point in the game, you guys, whatever Taco Bell put out, I ate it. Like I was in that age that 20 to about 23 range where I had an iron stomach. I was always up late playing PlayStation, kicking it, you know what I'm saying, and watching sports. I was a college football junkie. And so I was always watching college football, and I would literally get up on a Saturday and cut the TV on and have college football going all day, clean up my house, maybe have a little drink, maybe have a little smoke. And that's all I did all day long, right? But sometime during that day, I would stop and go to Taco Bell because all day long on ESPN were Taco Bell commercials. It was the repetitive nature, okay? It just became natural. So when they had a system in place that caused people to buy through their commercials. What happens with people like yourselves, people like me, we feel like we got to keep putting out new stuff all the time. And that's not the case. If you put out something good and put it on repeat, people are going to keep coming back. So make sure that you have a system. Title Examiner 237 says, I added your radio station to my favorites. I will start listening to your radio station this week. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Real Dope Radio, you guys. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play. It's on Spotify, right? So now that you know what you need to do, you need to have that system in place. Now it's just about repeating that cycle, okay? Make sure that you put that up here for those who are joining in. Repeat the cycle. That's it. Don't feel like you have to go in there and rechange or keep changing and keep tweaking. You tweak until you don't change. You can tweak when you start seeing things working, and then you'll see it scaling up. But don't feel like you have to start from scratch. When you start from scratch, it psychologically does something to you. You're telling yourself, one, that something doesn't work. And you're going to start putting in your brain that something doesn't work. And you're going to keep finding yourself changing things over and over and over to the point to where you feel like this isn't worth it. All right, you guys. So please do me a favor, do me a favor, do me a favor, do me a favor. Make sure that you understand anything that's worth having is worth working for. Understand that assembly is required. You got to get the skin in the game. Nothing's going to be just given to you. Do what you need to do so that you can make it to that next level. Incremental wins, you guys. Plan for 6 months of not making no money. Plan for 6 months of not making no success. I was talking to a good friend of mine today, and he's in the process. His entire life is about the change. But the last 6 months of his life have been hell on earth. Sleepless nights, getting up early, going to sleep late, having arguments with his wife, about, damn, man, we didn't see no money coming in. But give him about 2 more months, and I'll be putting his house in the market, and he's going to be buying something way bigger than what he got. And he'll probably be able to pay cash for it, right? Because it takes time, you guys. You have to plan for those failures. I'm going to end on this note. when I first got with my wife, we were shacking up, y'all, living in sin, right? So I had an apartment up in Plano, and she got this really nice apartment downtown. And I'll never forget, my lease was coming up. I was in grad school at the time. I just knew that grad school wasn't going to work for me because I needed to make some money. And so I told myself I was going to take a break, had a real deep conversation with her about taking a break. And I'll never forget when she moved into her apartment downtown, I came to visit one day and I was like, yeah, she can't be living there by herself. I mean, I got on the elevator and everybody on the elevator looked like they was a celebrity, right? And we joke about that to this day. So me and her made an agreement. I said, I never, really lived with anybody like this, but, let's, allow me to move in. I need some time to get my business off the ground. If you trust me and you give me 6 months, 6 months is all I'm asking for. You give me 6 months, I promise you, I'm going to flip what we have, and I'll put you in a position where you never have to work again if you don't want to, right? And so she took me up on it. And for those first 6 months, you guys, I would say the first 2 or 3 months, I didn't make any money. But I was getting up every single day. If y'all ever watched that show, what's the name of that show? It's called Desperate Housewives. My wife loves that show. I started watching it with her when we were dating. And there was a character on there named Orson. And Orson lost his job. And so every day, Orson would get up and get dressed and put on a suit and he would leave. And his wife thought he was going to work every day. But then she ended up seeing him one day just chilling at the park, right? So that's how she found out he had no job. Well, I was literally Orson, right? I would get up every single morning. We lived downtown. I would get up every single morning, get dressed. I'm talking about I would get dressed up, man. Some days I would put on a suit. Some days I would just have on a really nice shirt. I like dressing up. And when she got up to leave, I left, right? Psychologically, I felt like that showed her that I was about what I said I was going to be about. But systematically, it put me in a routine and it forced me to get out of the house. Shout out to everybody that's just joining, say what's up, where you from. And I would get out, and for the first week or so, like I would literally just walk down to a Starbucks or a coffee shop or a donut shop. Then my homeboy, Benny, he put me onto this spot in Dallas that's like a workspace where you can buy space. He had a business at the time. He's like, man, you should come down here. It's on the West End. I was downtown on one side. This is on the West End. So literally I could hop the train, and it was just 2 stops and I'm at the end of downtown. And so I signed a lease with them. And I think it was like something super cheap. It was like maybe $100 a month or maybe $75 a month. And I could just come in and sit in like a space, like an open space, use their Wi-Fi and work. So I started doing that systematically, still getting up every day, going into work. I got a name badge made. So now I'm going in there. I start meeting people. Funny thing how that works. I start meeting people. All right. Hold on one second, you guys. Sorry about that. My son's waiting on me to get done so we can watch these all-star highlights. So I start meeting people, and then I start meeting more people, and then I started making money. And it was like the first 2 or 3 months, nothing happened. Then I got my first contract. At the time I was already a broker, but I got my first real contract. And from there, you guys, I would say by that, I definitely beat that 6-month mark. I think her lease was up in a year. By the time we got to a year, I was rocking and rolling. We ended up buying a house. After that, we ended up selling that house, buying another house. I had another piece of property I ended up selling. And you guys, the rest was history. But it took me getting up every day with the mindset of I'm going to get up regardless of what's happening right now. And I'm going to do the exact same things every day. I don't care if it's raining outside. I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside. I don't care if, I got to wear the same pants. I went and got a bunch of shirts made with a logo so I could just wash them and iron them, right? Like, I'm going to do the exact same thing every day. And in passing, people start seeing me. People start seeing me showing up. I start having conversations with people at the coffee, up at the coffee water pot, whatever you want to call it. People putting me on game. My homeboy Benny, he would tell me things like, hey, man, you ever thought about doing this? You ever thought about saying that? From there, I started drumming up interest. I started shooting videos and making marketing videos. I started adding my own flair. I had been such a stuck up corporate type where I felt like everything had to be this way all the time, this way, or people wouldn't patronize me. And I started being myself. It was funny going down to that West End and seeing people who didn't look like me and how they were moving and how they were allowing themselves to be themselves in their business. and not really giving a damn what people thought about because they still had professionalism, but they were themselves. I started to blossom and start being Tim. And I said, you know what? People like Tim. But if people like Tim and they know that Tim is professional, he can handle this, people will love me, right? And you guys, the rest is history. The rest is history. I was able to build a business that I'm proud of, that I'll be able to sell my database one day, that I'm able to sit in front of you and teach you about. And people see me as a subject matter expert. I wrote a book during that time. Literally, when I didn't have, as my mom would say, a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, I wrote a book, right? Detailing my take on real estate, okay? A really good book called Real Dope, an in-depth comparison between real estate and the dope game. Check out the website and go get that book. 100% of the proceeds go to my mentoring program, right? But imagine had I not had that mind state. Imagine if I would have done things my way. Imagine if I didn't surround myself with people who believed in what I was doing. Imagine if I would have believed that it wasn't possible. Imagine if I would have thought that I had to be a certain kind of way for a certain kind of people all the time. That was unrealistic. I had to get out of my own way and see things different. And I had to assemble things differently. I had to put together a team of people. I had to stop fooling with some people because everybody can't get on with you. Everybody doesn't deserve to be in your life when it's time for you to, manifest the things that's meant for you. That's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. With that being said, you guys, I hope y'all have a great night. I'm about to come here and give me some sleep, at least try to wrap up this last contract. And that's a wrap for me. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.